Hi, and welcome to another installment of Math Basics, Mr. Besh. Today what I'm going to do is show you how you create lines using function tables on the coordinate plane. Now, first you have the geometry. The line on your coordinate plane is the geometry part. Now, every line can be matched to an equation of a line, and that's the algebra. So now here's the picture of my line using geometry, and then when I flip to the next slide, this is my equation in algebra. This equation, y equals 2x minus 2, is exactly the same as this line. And I'm going to show you how you get this line right here from the equation. Now, what I want you to do is look at this line, visualize it for a second, because I'm going to come back to this at the end. Okay, you got it? All right, so here's what I do. I take the equation that I have of the line, my equation y equals 2x minus 2. And then what I do is I create a table. A function table is a table that is composed of 2 columns and a few rows. My first column is headed with x, my second column is headed with y. Now the goal of using this function table is simple. I can pick any values that I want for x, any values at all, and plug them into my column here, starting one at a time. Recommendations. I definitely recommend that you pick smaller numbers. Smaller numbers mean easier math. Second recommendation that I have is don't pick your numbers being big, because you want to make sure that your numbers that you pick can actually be fitted and plotted on my coordinate plane. So what I always do is I always start 0 for x. Now let me show you how this works. If x is 0, I take it and plug it into the equation that I have originally. And this is what my work looks like. If 0 gets put in there for x, then y equals 2 times 0 minus 2. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 2 makes negative 2. So when x is 0, y is negative 2. Now I fill in my chart, and check it out. I got an x value, which is 0. I got a y value, which is negative 2. In the last lesson, we learned when we get x values and y values, these become points that we plot on our graph, and those are our coordinates. So now we take the value of x being 0 and y being negative 2, we take our coordinate plane, and we plot that point. We're going to continue this approach. We're going to do it not twice, but 3 times. Again, I just arbitrarily pick a number, make them something easy, something small. I used 1. So then I put a 1 in there for x, and now my equation is y equals 2 times 1 minus 2. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is going to make 0. So now what this is telling me is that when x is 1, y is 0. So again, I go to my chart and I fill it in. I put the 0 in there for y, and then I plot this point. I plot the point where x is 1 and y is 0, and it goes right there. Last but not least, I do a third point. Now, I want to pause here, just tell you one thing real quick. All I need technically is 2 points to do a line. The reason why I do a third point is to check, because if you line this up and you plot 3 points and 1 point is all the way on the other side, you know you made a mistake. But if you got 3 points that all line up where you can actually draw a line through them all, you know you're right. So the third point is always the check. So here's my check point. I just went on the next number in the list. I used x being 2. Now notice my x values, 0, 1, and 2. If you'd like, you could use 3, 4, and 5, or 5, 6, and 7. It doesn't matter what you pick for x. You could even use negative values if you wanted to. But it just makes your math a little bit more difficult. And what we want to do is keep our math simple. So now I use the x value being 2, so I go into my little formula, y equals 2 times 2, which is 4, and 4 minus 2 gives me 2. So what this means is when x is 2, y is 2. So then I go to my chart, I complete my chart, and now what I need to do is go back to my coordinate plane and graph x being 2 and y being 2. So there you go. Now I got my 3 points all lined up. The next step I have to do is draw a line through them. Now, remember what I said in the beginning, my very first slide. Take a look at this line, digest it. Because now what I want to do is I want to show you the 2 lines side by side. My original graph and then my second graph. Notice they're exactly the same. And that was my point. I was telling you that every line has an equation and vice versa. Every equation has one separate or distinct line. And that's what I have here. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is how I graph a line on my coordinate plane using a function table. I hope you found this both helpful and informative.